Gentlemen, thanks for joining me on what is hopefully a successful run for Salinas Mayor. Why don't we get started before we get into our conversation? I'll have both of you name, rank, and serial number, and what you're doing, and then we'll get started. Josh, why don't we start with you?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Josh Ruiz, and I am the Senior Director of Ag Technology and Innovation for Due to Farm Fresh Foods here in Salinas and all across the country. So,
All right, terrific. Good to see you as always.
thank you.
And Cody?
Thank you, Dennis. I'm the Technical Operations Manager at Geovisual Analytics. My name is Cody Ruiz.
Okay, great. Well, glad you're both here, uh, and one of the things there's a lot of interest in economic development, economic opportunity, and agriculture is obviously our base, and I certainly believe the technology and innovation strategy that we've been pursuing as an industry, but the city helped launch the ecosystem concept is an important part of that future. So I thought you two, and besides this being a family affair, you're an instigator, buyer, and we'll get into this a little bit. An ag renaissance person because of your background, and then you're a practitioner of the art, so to speak. But I also think Geovisual is a terrific company to kind of helps bring out what are the challenges in the entrepreneurial uh, journey. Because both of you can testify. Everybody expects everything to happen overnight, and that's not the way it works.
No, it's not. That's not at all how it works. And yeah, it's been great to watch the development of ag technology in the Salinas Valley, especially with your leadership at the Ag Tech Center. And that creation to me is really what set this journey for us as an industry because it started the conversation. And the conversation is what needed to happen for things to occur. And we're just now getting off the ground. Even though you've been at this a while, we've been at this a while. It takes a long time to change agriculture's mind sometime, but we're there. We're starting to move, and it's been a fun journey to watch for sure.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, technology certainly moves fast, but for instance, even the AI conversation today, people think that's overnight, and it's not overnight. It's been going on for a while, and then it emerges. So I think, one of the challenges is managing a community's expectations, a company's expectations on how fast things actually happen. And Cody and I think I think back to the Innovation Center, and Geovisual was one of our original players. But what was interesting to me, and this predates you, is they came to market, but then in many respects withdrew because they kind of had that mindset. We used to occasionally joke around here, hey, how come all these technology folks keep providing us solutions for problems we never knew we had? And Geovisual made a course correction. Talk a little bit about that, and what you do.
Sure. So I think one of the most important initial decisions that Geo made was Charles specifically went down to Bonapac down in Santa Maria and spent a year with them learning exactly what their issues were on the ground, riding with ranch managers, riding with operations managers out in the field, and to learn the problems that they're having. And I think one of the other most important things that they did is not take venture capitalist funding up front. So working with the state and federal government to get grant money was a huge advantage for them. It makes them slower, but farmers are slow. So they take money as they get it, just as farmers take innovation as they see fit.
With that original decision of we need to fall back rather than fall out, which is a big decision. We're gonna reengage, but we're gonna start backwards from the customer rather than our technology.
Yeah, instead of just making progress for the sake of making progress, you have to go to the end user and figure out exactly what issues they're having out in the field or in the office, wherever you see an issue. Rather than just doing things for the sake of making things better.
Well, and one of the things we like about Charles, you mentioned Charles McGregor, you now become the quintessential startup because you're in the center. You've picked up a number of customers in the Salinas Valley, and Charles, uh, actually lives downtown now. So perfect.
Yeah, got him to move from Denver to Santa Barbara back over here to Salinas.
There,
So
there you go. Let the record show we got somebody from Santa Barbara as well as Colorado. But what that also speaks to uh, is, we, regardless of where technology originates, and the fact of the matter is, people from all over the country and all over the world are going to look at the Salinas Valley because it's just well known in the specialty crop world. If you're going to scale, you need to be here. And so I think folks can appreciate the fact that we're the destination for where a lot of technology wants to find a home. But in the end, they got to go local if they're going to get themselves embedded. And Josh, you've gone all over the world looking for technology, but at the end of the day, you've got to, folks have got to localize their presence if they're going to be successful. But talk a little bit about the technology you've looked for and the opportunities it's created for folks who are participating in operating the technology, possibly even making the technology dependent upon what you're looking at.
Yeah, so there's two basic areas in this valley that are of high priority when it comes to automation technology, and that's labor and water. Water's a major issue. We all know it. Whether you're in the fields or in the city, it's an issue. And labor's an issue. We don't have enough labor. The labor's getting older. The younger generation's not coming in and doing this work any longer. And it's not that we want to replace them. It's just that we need to find a solution to help them. So as the next generation comes in, they don't want to necessarily pack lettuce the way their father and mother did. They want to do it in a more efficient, more automated way. So that's what we're after. That's what we're all trying to strive for, because ultimately we need technology to be more efficient and cost savings. But then that technology brings on a different issue, which is you need workers who understand computers, and you need workers who know how to operate a computer, work on a computer, and aren't afraid of computers, right? So as the next generation of workers coming in, they've got to be a different kind of worker. And I think it fits the time we're in, right? The time we're in is a social media time. Everybody's online. Everybody has a phone in their hand. And now we need to attract those workers into ag, and technology and innovation is the way we're going to do it. So we're solving two things at one time, right? We're getting different we're getting different technology to help our issue as growers, but then we're trying to attract that younger generation, and the technology is helping us do that, right?
And because those are higher skilled jobs, better wage opportunities.
That's right, absolutely. And I think that the younger generation doesn't fear the technology like the older generation sometimes might, and that's a big piece of it too. But yeah, absolutely, we need a person now who's been to MIT or been to somewhere for computer work and this kind of thing. In the past, it was nuts and bolts and hydraulics. It's a different worker today, and we need a different skill set for that.
Well, talk a little bit about that, because sometimes there's a perception of ag that's just based on what you see, and obviously the fields are quite visible, and then logically you see the trucks carrying the products into the cooler. So somebody's got to pack it, and then it's got to be shipped, and that's the deal. And agriculture is so much more robust than that in terms of career opportunities.
Yeah, it's amazing right now. And I growing up here in Salinas, going through the FFA program, we always said, it's more than cows, sows, and plows. That's what you think about. But today, that's not the case. Today, you need to be a business person. You need to be a data analytics person. You need to be a technology person. And farming is all about data, technology, innovation. When people are driving around Salinas, they see the fields, and they might not see robots out there dancing yet. But what's in those fields is a lot of technology. There's, whether you're talking about drip tape or sensors or monitors, there is so much data being collected and utilized to become more efficient at what we're doing out there. And so, yeah, you don't necessarily see the visible signs of technology, but it's all around us. And you can't run this business in this valley in agriculture wouldn't exist and can't go forward without technology, for sure.
Well, and speaking of data, I mean, you're obviously in that business with geovisual. Talk a little bit about what geovisual does, what its mission is on behalf of its customers, and then the technology that's involved.
Sure. So I think the biggest goal we have is taking data that growers already compile and trying to make it into something they can understand simply. So one of our biggest tools is like a digital ranch book. So we just digitize all people's ranches so that they can have it on an app on their phone. If you ever need to share it to somebody who's trying to get around, you can do that. Past that is, drone data analytics. So we fly a field, take pictures, give you stand count and sizing for lettuce. We kind of go on and on with our products, but a lot of it is just taking information that they already have and trying to give it to them in a more digestible way.
You mentioned drones. I think back to the beginning of the Innovation Center, and everyone was enamored with drones as if drones were the actual product. And the drones were never the product. But and it took a while for the drone world to figure that out as well. And so drones are basically either doing analytics or providing a service like spraying or something like that. Talk a little bit about the drones, because to some degree I gather you're agnostic in terms of what technology you use to gather the data. You just want the data, and drones happen to be the vehicle.
Yeah, drones are just the medium. So initially we were using planes to fly over the valley to collect the information we needed, and that wasn't cost effective anymore at the scale we were doing it. So we had to get a much smaller vehicle, being drones. But if we could snap our fingers and have a plane fly over every day for us to collect the imagery, and it was the same price, it wouldn't make a difference to us. It would be cheaper. So the spray companies, we've seen them kind of come and go over the years. Yeah, they're just a medium. Yeah.
Well, I've always been intrigued by drones because put in hopefully a mayoral hat back on. The city has the airport's an enterprise zone, so is and obviously particularly if there's increasing usage of drones throughout the valley, that airspace is something people are going to be paying attention to. So I always felt that was a future opportunity of sorts for the city. And drones are not going to be limited to just ag uses. I mean, if you listen to some of the other future applications, drones may, we see all those Prime trucks and FedEx drivers, but who knows? Drones, if drones are might be dropping off packages at your front door, to which I've always felt that would be a very interesting city council meeting. Drones moving up and down the street.
But I think drones are an interesting case use or case study when it comes to the city and agriculture and the interaction. Right. Today, we used to fly helicopters, but you don't want to get close to schools or the housing and things like that. But we still need to farm and protect our crop. But now we can deploy a drone, which is much safer for the worker and much safer for the city and those living in the city, and not having to worry about, drift or overspray or anything like that. And so now all of a sudden you have technology helping both the farmer and the city.
Pick up on that because, we talk about precision ag, which is kind of a catch-all phrase, but the reality is there are some specifics that go along to that. So talk about that issue of drones and spraying, because now you can do spot spraying rather than you've got to do the whole field. So technology really does help address and also if you spot spray and you're more precise, then you can use less material, and that makes the community happy. It might not make the suppliers happy, but there are trade-offs.
No, but it's a great point. And Cody and the work that they're doing at Geo is a great tie into that. They're allowing me as a grower to not have to conventionally fertilize or spray my crops any longer. They're allowing me to spot spray, choose when and how and where I spray my crops, and when and how I fertilize my crops. So I can cut back my nitrogen fertilizers, which is great for me. I'm saving money, but it's great for everything else that's involved as well. I don't have to spray the entire field. I can just spray a corner of it with a drone, save some chemical use, save some money. So I think there's a great tie-in there, right? That we're getting smarter and more efficient, and we're able to find better solutions to what we used to do. And that's how we're going to survive in this valley, and that's how we're going to thrive. And you've been instrumental in bringing in the biological conference. That's another piece, right? And all of a sudden now we're getting tools and things to make it so that we can be actually precise in what we're doing and not just broadcasting a bunch of stuff out there. Not that we were doing that, willy-nilly before, but the point is every year the technology gets better, we get better. And then you've been instrumental in tying this all together for the city and for us so that we can have these conversations, bring these tools together. Without it, that connection wouldn't be there, and that's a huge deal.
Well, and I appreciate that, and because and that's really a role I hope to serve. I think it's an opportunity that if I certainly believe I understand the mayoral platform and what it can be. We've got as you know, we have a phrase in ag, missed opportunity, which is there's a market, but I didn't have product. And I think I've just very fortunate just because of my years in business, but also having been the mayor. I think it's a real opportunity for the community to be that connector and convener, because as big as a lot of the grower shippers or processors may be, they're pretty focused on what they're doing, and so to have a mayor who can kind of jump into the fray, see the big picture. Because one of the things that's important, and you both probably see this, I often tell people, do not take ag for granted. Ag as we know it, I think we all know the world's changing, and ag is not immune from that. In terms of the materials we use, the changing nature of the supply chain, and so to me, because I think part of economic development is let's protect our base, see if we contribute to expand it, but we've got to figure out how to ride the wave of change as a community, and I think that's really important, and I'd like to, and that's one of the things I think I can contribute. But talk about, since you both see this, how are things changing? I mean, I think folks, sometimes folks double down on the present, and that's the wrong call. You've got to be able to anticipate the future and kind of see down the road a little bit. So what is changing? What should people be thinking about in terms of the area's biggest industry?
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt things are changing around here, and we got to be focused on it. None of us want to see agriculture leave this area. This is what we built our families and our homes in this community on. But if we're not careful, it's going to go somewhere else. And it takes a partnership to make it work. You need a mayor who's not only going to support the community, but support it in the sense of bringing people here from outside of the community so that we can get better. Because if we can't get better and more efficient, it will leave and it'll go somewhere else, and we will lose part of our industry. And we don't want to do that because it supports all of us. And you have been great about bringing in the FURA and these other conferences. When you do that, people from all over the world come here, and they come to Salinas Valley for a reason. Like you said earlier, we become the hub for this stuff. And when they bring their companies here, their employees here, it's great for all of us. Not only do we get to thrive and survive, but the community gets to thrive and survive because of it, right? My fear is that if we don't keep doing that, ag will leave. And it will never be gone, but it'll leave some hole somewhere.
Well, both of you work throughout the state, and you're a little younger, but I've farmed, for instance, in Oxnard, but it's not some great soil, some great ranches, some great growers, but it's not the district it used to be.
No, not at all. And it doesn't have what Salinas Valley has. I mean, Salinas Valley is here for a reason. We have a dynamic soils, dynamic climates throughout the valley, and there's a reason we're here. Yeah. We just don't want to lose that reason. Yeah. We don't want to become antiquated. We want to stay up with all the technology and stuff and become efficient enough to compete with these other areas that are generally lower cost producers.
Okay. And I think to tie into what Josh was saying, I think we're starting to see a shift in the entry point for a lot of growers on where they're picking up technology and what parts of their business. First, people seemed like they were rabid for it. They were picking up everything they could get all at once. But people have slowed down a lot in certain areas, but I think a lot of guys are focusing on the regulation part, getting regulated out of business. So a lot of growers are starting to focus on picking up things in that sector. I think that's really important, especially, getting regulated out of this valley. People are talking a lot more and more lately about moving to other states where they can farm as they see fit, use as much fertilizer as they feel like they need. But I think, trying to protect what we have here is very important.
Yeah, no, it is. I always kind of cock an eyebrow when I hear about somebody's lettuce deal in Idaho. But so, kind of picking up on what you just said and what we were talking a little bit before we hit the mics. Uh, the pace of change slower than maybe we'd prefer. But you mentioned a particular grower, and you don't have to mention his name. But now all of a sudden, very open to what are the tools I need to be competitive. Because to your point, where there's regulation or customer requirements, data becomes much more important. Uh, and as you know, we've both been around it. Uh, and I think this train left the station a long time ago. Growers, nobody's going to tell me what they're going to do, and it's like, no, yeah, actually they are, or you're not going to be selling them or working with this particular shipper, and then that begins to shift to never done it that way before, and I think all those things are really breaking down. So it even though everyone, every puppy, the puppy won't be able to chase every ball, and the economic climate in terms of investment isn't what we'd prefer. I sense people understand, maybe in a way they haven't before, they have to engage.
I think you're absolutely right. And again, I go back to your role and your leadership in the tech center and the conferences that you've brought to this area. And my point is to say, if it's just Josh in the coffee shop talking about robots, you kind of look crazy. But once you bring in the Secretary of Ag and some big industry players and some big suppliers, and you bring them all into a room and start talking about it year after year consistently, then these guys that are slow movers have no choice but to say, wow, okay, all of a sudden there's something going on downtown that I need to start paying attention to. And I'm telling you, it's made a huge difference, because that conversation now is not just Josh in a coffee shop and, oh, Josh is crazy, he always wants to talk about robots. No, it's a whole conference. And again, the Secretary of Ag shows up, or the governor's assistant shows up, or whatever. Now all of a sudden the growers have to take notice, and they realize that this is more than just one person talking about robots that's crazy, or a young person like Cody who's gung-ho for the business and wants to do technology, but I don't understand him because he's a TikToker and I'm not. That mentality is going away, and these old guard growers are starting to pay more attention. And again, your leadership has helped that tremendously, truly.
Well, I appreciate that, but and one of the things I've always been very clear on, innovation per se is not new to ag. We've had lots of innovation in this valley, but to your point, I think creating that ecosystem has mattered and has helped the cause. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how big you are, no one customer can scale a company or technology. Occasionally somebody will tell me hey, we're in with so and so, one of the big players in the valley, and it's like, okay, good, you all done? No, we need to meet more customers, and brand X is not necessarily going to pick up the phone to call brand Y, even though growers run in packs and everybody
Yes.
thinks there are secrets here, and
Yeah.
there are fewer than people realize. But the reality is, being being able to connect is really important, because that leads to scale and then hopefully company success. I want to talk a little bit about your background a little bit. I've always accused you of being a ag renaissance man. You've hung out with the vegetable crowd, but in your free time you can't seem to get enough of it. You're a vintner, and you're even a lemon grower. Talk about some of your other avocations, because you're really looking at the specialty crop world above and beyond what we typically do here in Monterey County.
Yeah, and one of my shortcomings is I love being a farmer. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I was born to be a farmer, and I love farming. And equally as much as I love farming, I love innovating and finding a different way to do it. So I've been blessed enough to get involved in the wine business, growing grapes, in the citrus business, growing citrus for commercial use, which is great. And it just allows me to entertain myself, basically. But I get to keep diving into technology, and there's a lot of technology out there that applies to one area, not all of them. But there's also a lot of technology that crosses, across different segments of ag too, which is great. So yeah, I enjoy farming. It's one of my downfalls.
No, good. Well, someone once asked me, what are my hobbies, and it was like, well, I, the serving the community was, yeah. So I understand for whatever reason it's
Absolutely.
in my DNA. So, Cody, you're a young guy, and you're in the mix of the future. What's your outlook? And you being in the innovation center and you're talking to other companies. How? Uh, I mean, I think people really are committed and believe the Salinas Valley is in many respects the show when certainly when it comes to what we do here. Are you generally optimistic? I appreciated the fact you wanted a yard sign, so that means you got a home and you're invested in the future. So what's the future look like to you?
Yeah, so a lot of the companies that I've talked to at the Western Grower Center, I think a lot of us tend to be optimists in general. We wouldn't work for startups if we didn't believe that one of them would work eventually. And I think we're all looking for a shooting star. It's tough compared to working for a normal company. I started my career in viticulture down in Greenfield. So it's very different than that. I've gone through a few startups now, a lot of them that were based out of Silicon Valley, spent time in San Francisco. It's a totally different world. The atmosphere is different. I like it. I like the small feel of a company, but it comes with its myriad of challenges for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. But one of the things that I think is terrific, and Josh, maybe you can comment on it, though you all are proof of it as well. Some 7, 8 years down the road, here you are, revenues working. Uh, what's worked from your perspective? I I think about some of the thinning and weeding tools that we see. Because and as you said earlier, I think there's a myth where that we're looking to replace people, and the reality is we're trying, because of some of the technology that has worked, we've been able to keep up with really kind of the unpredictable nature of of a workforce.
Yeah, and I don't think today we're looking for. I know we're not. We're not looking to replace the worker. We're looking to assist them, make their job easier,
Right.
make it a better work environment for
Right.
them, make it so that they're not breaking their back 10-hour days or
Right.
whatever.
Exactly.
So we're trying to give them better, more efficient tools, and the technology is definitely helping with that. The weeding and thinning is basically a mainstay in this area now. That was one of the first technologies to come on board, and it's pretty much mainstream. Everybody has a version thereof. Some I think are better than others. Right. And if you're the general public walking around, sometimes you'll see lasers, sometimes you'll see machines that weed and thin. So there's all kinds of versions out there. But that's a really successful ag tech stream, if you will. It started out as a couple prototypes, and now it's a full blown ecosystem where you can basically buy anything you want off the shelf. So that's a great example of what can be done here and what will be done in the future. There'll be many more to come in different areas. But yeah, if we can make the farm life easier and better for our workers, those are what I think is interesting and intriguing to me today.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you think about companies because like you say, I can think of 5 or 6 of the thinners and the weeders and the various data analytics service oriented companies. If you think about our valley, whether it's Valley Fab, Ramsey, that sort of thing, those aren't necessarily Silicon Valley types of companies, but they're successful ongoing businesses. So and we've had a few folks through the center through an exit strategy. But to your point, you've worked for a lot of different startups, and they don't all make it. But the fact that many are still here, we have we've had a couple companies with exits. Bear Flag to John Deere, that type of thing. So I think all of that speaks well to things are working.
Absolutely. And I think you hit on a great point. With these startups like Geo and Cody's talking about here, now you draw the attention of the big players. So Bosch is constantly here in town, right? That's a big player. That's huge. Bosch is making parts and pieces for every car and machine in the world. You've got Microsoft and Google now coming here on a constant basis. So now all of a sudden you've got big players that see Salinas Valley as a destination because of what you've helped create here with us, us as growers, and you representing the community. But that really truly is what's going to lead us into the future, because it takes those big players. These startups are great, but they need funding or technology to get to that next level, right? And those players are going to bring it.
Well, I know I got, particularly on the thinning and weeding side, I got excited when there were enough companies to steal from the other companies.
Yeah.
I go like, good, this is just like the Silicon Valley. That's working well.
Yep.
In fact, one of my favorite stories is, he's no longer the CEO of FarmWise, but I was walking up Main Street back to the center, and sitting outside of Dubbers, was the FarmWise crowd from France.
Yeah, right.
And kind of a really pleasant summer afternoon, and they're all they're waiting for burgers, beer, or whatever, and we're just chatting, and I just remember thinking to myself, well, this is what we kind of had in mind. I mean, because I'm pretty sure several years ago I wouldn't have expected to find somebody from France hanging out on the corner of Gavilan and Maine talking about their field trials.
That's right. And you constantly are bringing people to my attention. I'm giving tours, but one of that always sticks out of my mind is Google X. Google X showed up because they came through the center and wanted a tour, and okay, great. And that's somebody that we wouldn't necessarily be able to talk to. We wouldn't even be able to access somebody like that as a grower in Salinas without this environment. So there's some pretty amazing stuff going on, and I think it's only going to get better.
Well, that's good to hear. Cody, any last thoughts?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can't think of anything else.
Who are you voting for mayor?
It's going to be you.
Dennis
Donahue.
I appreciate.
That's why there's a sign on my lawn right now,
boy.
Dennis.
That's boy. And and if you need another one, we're like Doritos. We'll make more.
There
We'll
you
get
go.
If you
more.
give me a stack of them, I'll start putting them on other people's lawns too.
Ask permission.
Yes, that's right. Ask permission.
You have to ask permission, and we have to remember where they are. But I'll take you up. I need distributors, so
Yeah,
that'll be great. Josh, anything?
No, just thank you very much for having us here and giving us a chance to talk. And we look forward to you and your acceptance speech and becoming mayor.
From your lips to God's ears.
There you
Thank
go.
Okay.
you,
Thanks,
Dennis.
gentlemen. Okay.